Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. We go from high school to pros. Now let's go to the college ranks. So this is a really fun time of year, Mark, as we go now into the Super Regional round to the College World Series over in Omaha, the final destination for college baseball. We talked about all year long. We followed Alabama, Auburn, Troy, Sanford, and some of these teams that we knew would make a final run here. But now we're talking about the big dogs. And one of the biggest of the big dogs, actually the biggest of the big dogs, now finds themselves out of the tournament. The number one seed overall, the national seed, Arkansas, is done. Razorbacks out of the SEC, losing to NC State in the Super Regional round. That regional was actually in Fayetteville. Arkansas won game one 22-1, then lost game one 6-5. So you were thinking that they'd be able to get game three and punch their ticket into Omaha. But Mark, now the number one team in the field is now done, and it seemingly, NC State, you might remember in the past round, beat Alabama in game one at the Ruston Regional before Alabama ended up beating Rider and then losing to Louisiana Tech, and then NC State beat Louisiana Tech to get to this round. What do you make right now of the college baseball scene now as the number one team is now out? Also, the number 6 team in TCU is done. Number 8, Texas Tech, is also done. What do you make of the field right now, and is it as open as it's ever been with some of the top teams still in it, but also some unseeded teams now also in it?
Well, I think the surprise, obviously, is NC State, because if you look at total appearances in the College World Series, you have a bunch of teams now who are used to being there. The Pac-12, which has won 2 titles since 2009.
Right.
Arizona's there, Stanford's there, okay. Then you have the SEC, Vandy, obviously. SEC's won 6 titles since 2009, which is the most. Tennessee is there. And then you have Mississippi State, which it looks like they're going to be there. If they beat Notre Dame, they got a pretty big lead. Interesting thing about Mississippi State, this would be their 12th appearance, which is tied for the second most appearances without winning a championship.
Right.
All the other ones, Vandy's won 2, Arizona's won 4, last in 2012. Vandy, of course, won the last time they played back in 2019. Stanford was their 18th appearance. They've won 2 championships, but not since 1988. Texas, their 38th appearance. They've won 6, last in 2005. Virginia won 1 back in 2015. This is their 6th. Tennessee, this is their 5th. They have never won it, but NC State, this is only their 4th appearance.
Right.
So when I'm looking at these teams and I'm thinking, which team doesn't fit here? The one thing NC State, you can normally count on them to be generic, just to have an average year, like we said. 5-5 in football in the ACC, and maybe basketball go, like a 13-12 or something. Outside of Jim Valvano and David Thompson, they really haven't stood out much.
Yes.
But so this is a chance for them to get some recognition.
Exactly. And so NC State is one of the teams that are in. They won that series 2-1 against Arkansas. We'll take a look at some other results out of the Super Regional round. This will be the left-hand side of the bracket as you're looking at the bracket released by the NCAA. Stanford knocked out Texas Tech in a sweep, 2-0. That series was actually in Lubbock. Meanwhile, Arizona eliminates Ole Miss, so one of the teams out of the SEC that was in the Super Regional, they're now done, 2-1 there. And Vanderbilt sweeping ECU 2-0 there. I think you mentioned it, the teams out of the Pac-12, both Stanford and Arizona getting themselves into it, so they'll have a chance now to kind of play into the next round. One SEC team in Vanderbilt, one SEC team out, the shocker in Arkansas. So that's how it relates to the left-hand side of the bracket. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side of the bracket, 3 games, 3 out of the 4 have been settled. However, 1 isn't settled. And before we actually get to that, let's take a listen to how Virginia got in and knocked out one of the other kind of Cinderellas of the tournament, Dallas Baptist.
Got to be ready for it. Breaking ball, lifted to the outfield, back, out the wall, it's out of here! Kyle Teal with a grand slam in the 7th, and Virginia takes their first lead of the ball game. 5-2 here in the bottom of the 7th. The dugout, here we go, River. There's no quit in these Patriots. Rivertown lifts one to center field. This could be it. Newell makes the catch. And for the first time since 2015, Virginia is going back to the College World Series.
So that was actually today over in South Carolina. South Carolina hosting that super regional round as Dallas Baptist, the Patriots, fun season all along. DBU now out. Virginia is now in. We talked about the teams out of the SEC. Two of them faced one another, Tennessee and LSU. Tennessee, a team that we might remember out of the SEC, had a great season. Bama beat them in the SEC tournament over in Hoover, but Tennessee marches on, as does number 2 Texas. Number 10, Notre Dame and Mississippi State are playing Game 3 as we speak. It's one of the situations, Mark, where I think that this is shaping up in Omaha to be a really fun week of baseball because, honestly, we've seen so many kind of crazy things happen throughout the course of this tournament. I honestly believe that it's going to be a really, really fun time as the final 8 teams make their way to Nebraska.
Come on, but it would have been a little better if we could have Baptist there.
Oh, yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah,
yes,
Dallas Baptist.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been a little more fun, a little
yeah.
more crazy. Nothing says crazy like a Baptist.
Dallas
Okay.
Baptist University getting in there, and the Patriots getting in there. I honestly think that we're shaping up to have a really, really, really fun tournament over in Omaha. Of course, the last ticket will be punched a little bit later on today. As of the first round series over in Omaha, the College World Series, they'll look like this. NC State will take on Stanford, and Arizona will take on Vanderbilt, which I think that 4-5 matchup should be a phenomenal one. That's the left-hand side of the bracket. Meanwhile, Texas will play the winner of the Notre Dame-Mississippi State game. As Mark said, Mississippi State with a commanding lead right now over in Starkville. And Tennessee will take on Virginia, looking to ride that momentum all over at Omaha, Nebraska for the College World Series. We'll see how it all shapes out. That gets started a little bit later next week or a little later this week as they continue to finish out the Super Regional round and head over to the College World Series. Should be a really, really fun time over in Nebraska. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, talk of the college football playoff expanding, the talk getting a lot louder. And even today, it got louder still as now meetings are being set up a little bit later this week to talk about that. We'll detail what's ahead in Chicago coming up next here on Overtime.